What is continuous accessibility testing? Have you seen the new features of WebDriver version 8? And how does continuous delivery meet continuous security? Find out in this episode of the Automation and DevOps News Show for the week of December 4th. So grab your favorite cup of coffee or tea and let's do this. This episode of the Test Skill News Show is sponsored by the awesome folks at applitools. Visual AI validation testing is a must-have for any automation project. Try it for yourself by creating a free account by clicking on the link in the first comment down below. And while you're there, why not leave a comment to subscribe to get alerted every time I release a new episode. First up, automation news. So I mentioned Nightwatch JS on a previous news show, how they're making a lot more improvements. But did you know you can also use Nightwatch JS for API testing? If not, let's check this out. So David Burns announced on LinkedIn that Nightwatch JS actually can be used for API testing. They actually improved the way that you can do it with a brand new plugin. And you can learn all about the plugin on the Nightwatch plugin app testing GitHub repo. And basically this plugin brings API testing into Nightwatch. It contains the following features. It integrates with Supertest for testing HTTP requests. It also has a built-in mock server based on Express with support for sign-on assertions on mocked HTTP requests and a bunch of other features as well. Shows you how to install and configure. Dimitri Harding mentioned that when he started out automation around 8 years ago, Nightwatch was the easiest to get started with, and mainly because it comes with everything you need to get started with automation. So if you haven't tried Nightwatch yet, here's your chance to try it, especially with API testing. You can check it out in that first comment down below. Do you want to know a way to make mobile app testing even easier? Let's check out this latest post by Jason Arbin. If you haven't been following Jason Arbin, you definitely have to. He's been posting over the past week some really cool technology he's been doing with AI and how it can generate automated scripts for you automatically and a whole bunch of things that it can do for testers. So definitely give him a follow after reading this next article by him. And the article is called App Quality Made Easy. And he lists out a formula with a link to an app to help you with quality attributes, quality monsters, and App Store reviews. And he goes over what each of these areas mean for this formula he came up with. And as I mentioned, this app is free. And Jason mentions that all he asks is to help share the app with other folks that care about the quality of their apps. So thank you, Jason Arbin, as always, for your leadership in this area for years and years, leading us, especially with AI and with this new free app that can help us with quality. So thanks again, Jason, and definitely check out this app once again in the first comment down below. So Christian Broman also just announced that WebDriverIO was just released. So let's see what this includes. So this is a major release that you definitely should upgrade to if you're using WebDriverIO. If you haven't checked out WebDriverIO, now's a good time to get on board. It talks about all the different changes made. They made a transition from CommonJS to ESM transition and what that means. It also has some new features like a new runner for unit and component testing. The browser has a new action interface that could be really handy for some automation that you may have found tricky in the past. It has WebDriver BiDi support and other new features as well. I actually had a chance to interview Christian all about this on my podcast that I just dropped on Sunday. So I'll have a link for that as well, where you can actually listen to all the awesomeness that's included in version 8 of WebDriverIO. Have you heard of continuous accessibility? Accessibility testing has been a hot topic this year, but I just learned a little more about continuous accessibility that I think you should know about as well. And this article is by Tamar House. She posted an article to Forbes that talks about CI/CD and why continuous integration and continuous testing is important. But she mentioned that not only is that important, but also how accessibility testing is going to be the new wave to be added to the CI/CD pipeline, something called continuous accessibility. If you don't know, Tamar runs something called Sense It, which is a company that actually helps you automate usability testing for digital accessibility. I learned about this a few months ago on a applitools Future of Testing. So I was really interested to learn more about Sense It. And as I mentioned, it's a continuous accessibility. It helps you increase the quality and speed of your accessibility assessments that I know a lot of people are struggling with, helps reduce risk and liability, decrease time to market, and helps with continuous integration. This is one of the first tools I see in this space, and this is probably going to set the way for a bunch of other tools as well that can help you with accessibility testing. But I think this is really a giant leap for anyone that's doing accessibility testing. If you haven't seen this tool yet, try it for yourself, request a demo, and then let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. So we mentioned WebDriverIO already, but what about tools like Cypress, Playwright, Selenium? How do you decide what tool to select and which one to use for your specific team and your specific needs? Well, I have an awesome resource for you that covers just this. And it's a webinar by the folks at applitools on Cypress, Playwright, Selenium, or WebDriverIO, Let the Engineers Speak. And this is part of their Let the Code Speak series of webinars where they're going to pit Selenium, Cypress, Playwright, and WebDriverIO against each other in a head-to-head coding challenge. And representing each tool, we're going to have Andrew Knight, who's going to be the moderator. We'll have Gleb with Cypress. We have Tali, who's going to be representing Playwright. We're going to have Carter, who's representing Cypress. Steven will be representing Selenium, and Jose will be representing WebDriverIO. This is definitely a must register for event to see it, because this is a question I get asked all the time. And here's your chance to actually see side by side the same exact code, how it looks at doing the same exact activity for you to decide which one resonates with you and your team. So definitely check that out and register in the comments down below, and hope to see you there. And if you can't get enough of the free automation awesomeness you can get online, I'm actually hosting a summit called Global Testing Summit with the folks from Perfecto and BlazeMeter that you definitely need to check out this week. So this is happening December 6th and 7th. They have a great lineup like Michael Bolton, Jana, we have James Bach, we have Iran joining us. We'll also have sessions on Appium with Sai and Srini. Gleb will be going over Cypress. We have a keynote on the future of app quality. We have Federico talking about performance testing. We also have John talking about performance testing, which is a really hot topic this year as well. And Thomas is going to be wrapping it all up with strategic and tactics of test automation. If you haven't registered yet, once again, I highly recommend you do, and would love you to be there, because I love a lot of people to be joining live to ask me questions while we're on air. It really makes the event fun for me as well. So definitely check that out in the first comment down below. So when we talk about accessibility testing, it seems to always be from a tester's point of view. But what about if you want to get your developers involved, if you really want to shift it left in your software development lifecycle? Well, I found a resource for you on web accessibility best practices and a checklist for developers. And this post is on LinkedIn by Susan, where she links to a free Code Academy post on web accessibility best practices and a checklist for developers. It goes over what is accessibility testing, what are the barriers of accessibility testing, and an accessibility checklist you should definitely share with your developers as well, with code examples also. Next up, performance testing news. So I found a performance engineering series I think is really going to help you with your performance efforts. Not sure where I first found this. It had to be on LinkedIn, so it was either by someone either like Scott Moore or Alexander Podelka, but definitely a resource you should check out. And it is a series on tuning for performance with a case study. And this is a series of articles that's going to introduce you to learn more about performance engineering, especially how to deal with actual issues of the product in a production deployment scenario. So it starts off by doing a case study on JVM tuning. Very detailed, goes into a background, awesome graphs, what the tuning process and outcomes were, crash problem analysis, and ultimately some results, outcomes, and conclusions and takeaways. Definitely a great resource, so definitely check that out once again in the first comment down below. So we talked a lot about continuous testing, continuous accessibility, and following this trend is an article I found on continuous security that I think you need to know about as well. So this post is by Tanya Janka, one of the leading experts in this field, and she talks about how she just published her first article on Stack Overflow on continuous delivery meets continuous security. And in this article, Tanya breaks down what is dynamic application security, also known as DAS. And she mentions why that DAS is easy to get started with. She goes over some ground rules for security in DevOps environments, dynamic testing in practice, what it looks like. Some more great insights from Tanya. Thank you, Tanya, for this. And you definitely check this out, because I think this is something you definitely need to have in place. Especially if you're a tester, you need to be involved in security testing, as always, like I always say. For links to everything of value we covered in this news episode, head on over to the links in the first comment down below. And while you're there, make sure to check out our sponsor, applitools, for your account offer, and discover how to take your automation testing to the next level, leveraging visual AI. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild News Show. I'm Joe. My mission is to help you succeed at creating end-to-end, full-stack pipeline automation DevOps awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.